All right. This is Jessica, and I am back with another quick little episode of the Women Unscripted. And I have my friend here, Rosa. Rosa and I met very in a unique situation. We both had signed up for a Sage Robbins, which is Tony Robbins' wife, a seminar that she was hosting, a free seminar virtually. And I don't remember if we were in the same like chat or if I reached out to you. I don't even remember.
No, I think you just wrote in the general chat if any girls in like Florida wanted to like stay in touch. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm in Florida now and I'd love to stay in touch with new like people because I didn't really know many people yet. And
Yeah.
so I was like, yes, and like-minded women, this is amazing.
And how many times does it happen that you do one of these seminars and it's like rah rah rah, you feel amazing, you get to work and then like a week later you're like, yeah, kind of like dies off, right? But if you
Yes.
continue meeting people or stay in touch with the people who do these types of things, then you kind of have that fire lit, right? For a little while longer. So that
Yes.
was my intention to connect with as many women so that I have that constant energy, right? Flowing to want to be better and be surrounded by people who want to be 1% better every day. And you are definitely one of those people. And I want to learn more about you. I know we've gone to breakfast and we've had a couple Zoom calls, you and I, but I want to dig a little deeper. So if you're game for that.
Let's do it. I'm excited to do a little bit more deeper and really talk about all the things that are, going on because everybody shows like this one face when you first meet, and there's so much more going on, you have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know what people are dealing with. And then it becomes a relief like, oh, you're struggling too. Okay. Like it's not just me. And there's always that connection. So let's get into it and start from where you're from. You said you moved to
Sure.
Florida. So from where?
Yes. So I was born in New Jersey and I lived in New York for a while I was doing my MBA and working full time. And then I had a little miracle baby. And he was really great in New York for about a year and a half. And then I was like, all right, I think we need more space. So then we moved back to New Jersey. And then I think we want to fast forward basically to COVID times.
Mm.
And then I was just kind of having one of those moments, like many people, that I just was assessing, my situation. I had done everything I wanted to do in a 20 plus year career in finance. My I don't know, my view of the future just didn't hold another 10 years of what I had been doing. I wanted more. And I also think that we always talked about, okay, we're going to retire in Florida, like a lot of people in the East Coast.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
And sorry, my voice is going now again.
No
Both
problem.
my kids were just sick, so I'm just recuperating from just, having some sleep at least. Um, and then I just realized, you know what, like why not do it now? And I think a lot of people did because we weren't the only COVID movers. We're actually known as the COVID movers here in Florida. And
Yes. Thanks to you all, our prices have like shot up.
and I apologize, but we're trying to make things,
Super happy you're
nice for
here,
you
by the
guys
way.
too. We're trying to be good. We're trying to drive better.
Yes, awesome, awesome. We're not known to be great drivers ourselves, so it's all
Oh
good.
no. Well, New Jersey's definitely not up there. So we're trying, we're realizing like road rage isn't a thing here and it's great. I don't well, where we are, maybe not more congested areas,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
love that. I don't have that anymore. In any case, I wanted just a different lifestyle and I got that. And I think even though my son still probably misses a little bit of snow here and there, um we can go and visit and that's
Yeah.
that's great. I love being in Florida and I love the different way I look at my days and everything, so it was a great move. And if
Tell me
Yeah,
what is so different? Like what are you doing now or not doing now that you were doing before or vice versa?
right, so well, I think number one, I have well, let me backtrack a little bit. So I have another baby I got. She was conceived the day we landed in Florida.
Wow.
Yes,
What a
and
way to
so that
celebrate.
that was pretty much the most ass- assertive, like kind of universe um conversation basically that I had with why I came here. And I was like, oh, it's true. This was supposed to be what I did. And it was Perfect. So I had had two miscarriages between my first
Mm.
and this little last one. So the move to Florida was by far like the best decision I've ever made in my life, I feel. And during that time I was pregnant here, I was working remotely. I was able to the whole year round go outside, start my days with sunshine. Even if it rained, the sun would come out again. And I'm a huge seasonal person. So my birthday's in January. It just passed last week.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. And it stunk because it was always in the middle of winter. And I was such a hibernator because once it got cold, dark, early, I just didn't want to be out and about.
Yeah.
And during COVID, that was like the hardest time because you couldn't really be out and about too much. You couldn't socialize and you were stuck inside with, the cold and everything. So you don't have that here. And it's amazing. I honestly make such a difference. So that really is number one. Number two, it's just a different speed. At first it's upsetting. You're just like, why aren't things moving faster? You're like in robotic mode. And all of a sudden you're just like, wait, let me take a step back and accept it and actually feel like, wow, I'm allowed to go slower. And you look
Yeah.
at it a different way. And there's a myriad of things that could go on for hours. But those are the two that really kind of really stick out at the top.
Cool. Very cool. It's funny because I don't consider like South Florida to be slow by any means. So I can't even imagine living in New York. I visited New York once when I was a teenager, and I remember feeling overwhelmed, like, holy moly, like what is happening here? But then I thought, well, maybe that's just because I'm a teenager. Maybe I don't know enough about about like the world, maybe that's how it is everywhere or whatever. But it's funny to hear you say that because that was my impression. The one and only time I've been to New York, it was just like, whoa, it's a lot going on here, and it was very fast. And I don't know. I think here, I guess you can create your own speed. The life I live now is way calmer than the life that I did, when the kids were young and we were hustling and bustling, trying to grow a business and all of that. It felt like it was very overwhelming and very fast then. Now we have been able to scale it back, but I agree, Florida's the best. Anyway, you might be a little biased, but so tell me, you're married and you have two kids.
Yes, and I have two kids. So at 47, I have a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old. So it's a lot. What I will say is, besides, we wanted to talk about kind of some challenges
Oh yeah.
that women kind of don't always talk about. Obviously, besides having, two miscarriages and then kind of giving up, saying, I'm in my mid 40s now, let's just relax, and not go
Yeah,
overboard on IVF and everything because maybe it's just not meant to happen.
right.
And I will say that thought came into mind only because of COVID, right? Because that's when we were going to start IVF, and then COVID hit, and we're just
Mm,
like, maybe let's just survive. And when she came naturally, it made me realize like everything has its timing, and you can't plan your life. You really can't.
yeah,
You want to set a vision, but like you can't say like I'm gonna have a baby at 30, I'm gonna have another baby at 32, and I'm gonna do this and I'm
right.
gonna do that.
You can try
Um,
and you could say that till you're blue in the face, but there's
right.
no guarantee.
But then what happens is if you're not flexible, you set yourself up for not just overwhelm and feeling frustrated. And so I don't feel like I have that anymore. I really am just like happy of my successes. I'm celebrating, and there probably is a correlation with the fact that about 2 years ago is when I found and I started actually going to these Tony Robbins events, because up until then it was just like I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't need anyone to guide me or give me any viewpoint of how to do it. I was just like, I'm gonna get my MBA. I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make this much. I'm gonna, and it was just go, go, go. Whereas the last 2 years have been amazing and just really stepping back and understanding what else there is besides these successes that I have like kind of, check, 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 check.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't really, I still have tons of aspirations, tons of things I want to do, but I'm not so set on like, this is failure. If I don't do this, then this isn't, I'm not good enough or any of these things. he just opens up a world of just like growth, development, and just moving forward
Yeah.
in whatever way. Sometimes it'll look like this, sometimes it'll look like this, right?
Yeah.
So that's been the most beautiful thing in, like, getting to this point and being a mom of two. The difference of how I'm able to be present for my 2-year-old versus how I went right back to work, seeing clients, being out whenever I needed to be out with my 10-year-old. So I'm present for both of them now, and I'm so appreciative of that. And I'm able to, obviously decide what I'm going to be doing in my second chapter of life. So all of
Yeah.
that is just really amazing, and I do attest that to, all of the Tony Robbins and all the world of self-development, because it opens
Yeah.
up, you start searching for what you resonate with, who you really, because he's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Right. 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 And you're looking for your purpose, right? Like your purpose is not to wake up and to go to work every day. Like there's something deeper than that. So it's interesting. It helps you step back and kind of take a bigger picture of like what's going on here. What do I really want? What's important? What's not important? Um, Regarding your miscarriages, how did that affect you and your marriage, your kids, like your older son, right? Your oldest is a son.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
did that like psychologically just mess with your head, or was that more of like an acceptance, like, okay, I just got to keep trying? Or how did you, because I know I have personal friends, many that have gone through miscarriages. And I mean, I can't even, I haven't personally gone through that. So I can't, I can sympathize, but I can't really, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
how that,
I think so with my son, it was the first time I had ever been pregnant, and I was
oh, wow.
35. So I didn't even understand when I was pregnant with him what miscarriage would be, what it would look like. So
Right.
I was very fearless with him. I continued moving around. I even went on like bachata dance cruises, salsa cruises with him at 6 months pregnant. I'm dancing on board with my husband. He came and he didn't even know what he was doing, but he came. And we would just go, go, go. Once I couldn't dance salsa anymore because it got too big, and like, it just, you
It's
get dizzy a
uncomfortable.
lot. I started doing tango. And so, and up until I had her, it was like until the week before, until him, I was dancing and I was active. What happens when you have a miscarriage is you realize, like, oh my God, I have to, like, what if I did something? What if it
Yeah.
was, I ate something, I moved some which way? Like, you
The guilt.
automatically blame yourself. The first one, I know I did. And I was like, oh my God, did I do this? Did I do that? Da, da, da. And so it plays a lot on you emotionally, because you're just like, what if, you know, and then you just go. So
Right.
it took a while. It took about 6 months. Um, Fortunately, I had my son, and he got me out of it, because I was like, okay, he was just a year old. So I got, pregnant back to back. So I said, you know what, I need to just focus on him and, get out of this kind of rut. So I was able to come back from that first miscarriage pretty quickly, within like 6 months, I would say.
Yeah.
The second miscarriage was a lot worse,
Mm.
and about 4 years later. And so now I'm closer to 40. I guess I'm grateful I got pregnant. So
Yeah.
I'm realizing that it's not that easy to get pregnant. And then you're just, I should say, it was so bad. I ended up in the hospital bleeding for about 8 hours. So it was a really bad miscarriage. And
Goodness, how scary.
yeah, and you end up really at that point just reanalyzing everything. And so I went into a bit of a depression. I was also having a lot of issues in a toxic work environment, and I just needed change. So I actually had to leave my job. And the great thing is that the new place really gave me space, and didn't ask me to start right away. I went to Chile. I went to Easter. I went as far as I could go by
Hmm.
myself. It was one of those, like, I need to just move away from everything and just clear my head.
How long were you gone for?
2 weeks.
Okay.
I didn't just go to Easter Island. I went to Atacama, the desert, the driest desert in the world. I went, I just really, and my husband completely understood. My son was great. We FaceTimed, all the time. But I was just not in a good place and I just needed to shake it off somehow. And so I did like all these meditations, all these other things.
That
And
was
I
going
was
to be
able
my
to come back.
question. Like what?
Yes, no, I did everything under the sun, like spiritual, like things, this and the other. I went very deep. And I came back and it worked completely well. I was a whole new
Hmm.
person. I started the new job and I had a beautiful 4 years like in front of me. And that's all I did. I didn't think about having kids anymore. Um, and I was at peace with it in a really, really good way.
Yeah.
Um, and so I will say, I mean, everybody has their own healing, their own ways of doing it, but it sometimes takes a lot. And that was it took almost 9 months. So
Mm.
it could be a year, it could be 2 years, whatever it is, for everybody. But if you if you just go through it, you have to get through the belly of it, not
Right.
just like hide it. Like
Right.
I made sure people understood, like, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I'm not
I think
okay.
that's so important though, that you didn't try to hide it, that you were like, yeah, I'm not okay. I need help. I think that is so important. I think so many women, I mean, people in general, but I think so many women who go through things like this just kind of hide under a rock and just are, suffering alone. And they don't see like light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, kudos to you for reaching out and saying, I need this.
Yes. So then I will fast forward because this is what also the pendulum swings around. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I did the exact opposite of what I did with my son, which was a very healthy pregnancy, but I was
Yeah.
so terrified.
Right.
I
Right.
laid in bed as much as I could. I barely walked around. I barely did anything. Didn't go to the gym anymore. Didn't go dancing anymore. I was just like, I want to be a perfect little incubator for this baby, and I don't want to mess anything up.
Yeah.
What happened? I lost all my muscle mass.
Mm.
I gained an insane amount of weight. I went up to 200 pounds. I am normally like 140.
Wow.
So this is an insane amount. And I was very close to being, I forget what it's called, well, diabetic,
The
when you're pregnant.
gestational diabetic.
Yes.
Hmm.
But they took the exam again and I passed it because I really buckled down. But I was eating horrifically. In the sense that like I wasn't I was eating whatever I craved because I thought that that's what I should do. So she
Yeah.
was a big sweets. She wanted sweets. And I was like, okay, whatever she wants. Like I was just
I'm just curious.
completely,
Is she a big sweets eater now?
no, she hates
Interesting.
sweets. You put a cake in front of her and she's just like, she wants like the
She
green
had her
beans.
fill for like 9 months. She's like, I'm good. You covered that. We're set.
Yes. And my son, who I drank green juices with, can't get enough of sweets. So yeah, you
So
can tell.
funny.
But anyway, so what I would recommend and really suggest is to not overreact on finally I'm pregnant. I don't want to, mess anything up. Like your body needs to continue moving. If I had to do it again,
Right.
I would continue moving, even just a little bit, like, the 15 minutes a day for sure. And just not be scared because you get so scared you're gonna screw something up. It's
Of
horrible.
course. Of course. Like I can understand that. But being in bed like that and not going outside and not moving, did that cause a depression?
Um,
I mean, I'm sure you were
not
under
while I
some
was pregnant.
anxiety.
I won't say not while I was pregnant. I was completely fine. I was all in like manifestation mode, right? Like I was
Mm.
just like, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be all right. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Blah blah blah. It was after. The depression came after because my body was a disaster. I was a
Right.
mess. I ended up getting shingles. I couldn't
Oh
move. I
no.
had pains. I had pains where I didn't even realize I could have pains. And it was just daily. It was horrible, excruciating pains. My feet, my this, what everything was falling apart. And I was like, what did I do? Like, what happened? Um, and you can blame things that you did differently because with my son, it was all natural. I didn't have any epidural, anything, no meds.
Oh
I just had
wow.
him completely natural. And I got to the hospital at 3. He was out by 5 a.m. With her, I
Amazing.
was in the hospital for a full week. They put everything to get her out. She would not come out. And so,
Isn't that
yeah,
ironic?
craziness. And I had to do epidural and I had to do other things. So then, and just everything just afterwards was just so tough. Everything was tough.
Was it a
So I
C-section?
was. No, no, no. I finally
Oh,
had her
yeah.
naturally, naturally, but with
Yeah.
tons of medication, tons of
Yeah.
Pitocin, all this stuff. And it was just a disaster. I felt like I had just gotten out of a UFC fight, like,
Oh,
but really lost really badly. And so it took a long time. So yes, I did have depression after her. But my husband's wonderful. He really understands like the psychology of things. So he was very supportive in that sense, and really, really got it. And he really took care of her. It was, I will be honest with you, and I haven't told anyone this. Um, I couldn't do the nights with her. That's how depressed I was. I just couldn't. He slept with her at night, like under his like arm, like he would be like this and she'd be right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the mornings, I would like take pictures of how cute they were, but I didn't want her near me. That's
Yeah.
how bad I was. And
And that happens. I mean, there's many, many women that go through postpartum depression. How do you get yourself out of that? How do you just turn that off?
no, it's it's funny. Like I also haven't told anyone this. I did start an antidepressant
Hmm.
because for the first time in my life, I thought, okay, I need to be there for my kids. Like I gotta snap
Yeah.
out of it at some point. Like, yes, I get it. I'm in pain. I'm not doing well. But she needs me too, and my son needed me too.
Yeah.
Um, and so I started an antidepressant, but that isn't what got me better. What that just kind
Mm.
of, sets you up.
Yeah.
And what got me better was moving again. So I started going back to yoga slowly. I started going back to the gym slowly. And even in pain, I would show up. I was
Mm.
in pain, Jessica. Oh my God. I was like, I don't know why I'm going to the gym and I'm in pain.
And the
Guess
pain
what?
came from what? From the shingles or like what was
Yeah, I
the
don't
pain
know.
coming from?
I don't know. All of a sudden, I was allergic to, so I'm allergic to sulfates or original. So I'm also gluten intolerant, but I'm allergic to sulfates from like wine. All of
Hmm.
a sudden, I became allergic to sulfates that are in dried fruits that I didn't know like existed. I didn't even know there were sulfates in a lot of dried fruits. And I was eating a ton of dried fruits after
Mm.
after I had her. So I just did what I did when I found out about gluten. I did an elimination diet. I took everything out to see what was causing the pains. It's
Yeah.
just your immune system. Your body's thinking it has to attack itself.
Yeah.
Um, so I took that out, and the pain started, getting better. But then, yes, just shingles was like in the middle of my back, like horrible contractions. Basically, pick your contractions that were the worst, and then have them come every 5 seconds.
Oh my
Go,
God.
go, go, go. It just wouldn't stop. And so yeah, that took a good year, even with acupuncture and everything, for the pain to go away and with moving. The moral of the story is move even when you don't want to move.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
you know this because you're doing crazy things that you never thought you would do. And
True.
right? I think you've
Yeah.
asked me a few times, you're like, do you want to start doing the chat? And I'm like, oh, walking how much? No, thanks. Like, I'm not even close to that yet, but I am moving and I am getting to the gym and I am doing stuff that I didn't think I wanted to do before. And now I'm forcing myself to like weight training. I was like, I don't want muscles in my arms really. I'm like, please, like, let's do it. Let's get more muscles in the arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so the thing I have to say is just that's what got me to feel better for sure. Like going and just moving. And even if I didn't want to, even if I was hurting, obviously not, making it worse. But if I was just like hurting in my legs, I would work out my arms. Like I would work out
Right.
whatever I could work out.
No excuse. Like you were getting it done.
Yes. And that's what got me out. That's what got me out of the depression. And I started going back to dancing. You got to go back to the things that you love and
I
that
love
really
it.
made you feel good, right? So I went to the ballrooms, and that, during the day, it wasn't like out at midnight. There was a ballroom that, is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hmm.
Done. Let's do it. So
That's so awesome. But you're right. Like you need to get back to yourself. What made you happy before? And if dancing and working out and all that was your happy stuff, then yes, even though you're not feeling up to it right now, but revisit those things. Those things made you happy before. They can make you happy again, right?
a
What a
hundred
great
percent.
what a great concept. Yeah. And I didn't know you did tango. I gotta see this in action. I'm so
No.
intrigued right now.
My tango is definitely rusty. I have a partner that like will send me videos and he's like, let's try this next time. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So I'm studying them. Like it takes a lot more dedication and like, focus than like if you want to just go salsa. You see all these
Right.
people like just they pick a new partner and they can just follow.
Yeah.
Tango is, for me anyway, I definitely have to practice and really, really plan it out. Um,
Oh my gosh.
it looks
Um,
easier than it is. I will say that. It's
I,
definitely
I
not.
don't I don't think it looks easy at all, to be
No,
honest with you. Yeah, not at all.
I used to be like, oh, it's just like walking around.
Yeah,
It's
but
not.
there's so much poise and so much like I don't know. I'm fascinated. I would instead of our next breakfast, I think I need to see you dance. So I'll go to your
Let's
next
no,
practice or something.
let's go to a practice together. That's what we need to do.
I'll just watch you. I don't know about dancing, but I'll watch you.
You can
Um,
walk. You can do the walking.
okay. And look in the
It
mirror
is.
and try and practice.
There's classes that are. I've had classes like when I first started. The first like 2, 3 classes are literally just walking and down, up
Oh
and down.
wow.
That's what you learn to walk. So
Yeah.
I'm serious. You can just come and walk.
Interesting. I just might do that. That's interesting. Um, so yeah, I mean, I know friends, like I told you, who've had miscarriages. I know I have friends also who've gone through postpartum depression, and that like scars you. Like that's such a like deep wound that you feel. And I don't, I mean, I know about the guilt. I understand that 100%. And I can imagine with the postpartum depression, it's the same guilt you had like with the miscarriages where you feel like I'm not being a good mom. I need to be a good mother. Why am I not a good mother? Like you have all that going on, I assume, right?
I think initially, but I will say, having a really supportive husband that gets it
Yeah. Makes all the
brings you
difference.
back. Yeah, it brings you back because you can totally go off the deep end. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, why am I not? Why am I this? Da, da, da. He just really got it and he read up on it and he would make me feel better about it every day.
Yeah.
Like never like, oh my God, she was crying for you. Or like, no, never made like
To
any
be
guilty. Yeah.
to be like a bug on the wall or in his mind just to kind of get his thought process and think like I would love to like talk to him one day and be like what were you thinking, was he like maybe initially he didn't understand because he's not a woman, he doesn't go through that, and he's never experienced that before, but did he know that he have to just pick up the pieces and like okay she's down right now so I got to be up, let me just take care of business, or was it like whoa, like a learning curve, like what is going on here, like
What I will tell you that is very, and maybe just unique to him, but probably not, because you hear all this of like daddy's girls things. He was able to bond with her much, much quicker than he was with my son,
interesting.
our son. I should say our son.
I do the same thing. They're my kids. They came out of my
He
body.
corrects me. He corrects me. He's like, it's
My
ours.
husband
I'm like,
too,
yes,
don't
this
worry. Every time we go out anywhere, he's like, these are our kids. I'm like, sorry. They came out of my
he,
body. They're mine.
yeah, right. He just he said that the minute because he was there, obviously, the minute she came
Yeah.
out, like she grabbed his finger and he was like, I was putty.
Yeah.
I was putty in her hands.
Yeah.
And I said, that's amazing because it took a bit with my son. I was the one, he was kind of like, what is this thing that just came out?
Yeah.
With her, it was like he embraced her a lot. So I think actually he enjoyed it a lot more than he thought he would. Like he
Yeah.
loved it and he never even questioned like, oh, I have to do. No, he was all there for it. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, everything's yeah, life is sometimes really, really, really miraculous, I think, because it was kind of it could be, the Darwinian theory, like, but
Yeah.
it was with her, she got really lucky and she got someone that really embraced her big time. Like whatever she wanted, however she wanted, he was there for her. And now she and I are super close. She picks me over him now. Because,
That must devastate him. That must devastate him. Poor
maybe a little bit.
guy.
But
Well,
yeah, so everything's worked
he'll
out
have time to
perfectly.
win her back, especially during the teen years when you and her are going to be like this. He's going to be the hero. So,
Exactly. I'm sure. I'm sure.
so has there ever been anything else as big as that you've had to endure? Anything as profound or like another challenge that was really just life changing like that you've gone through? I know that's enough in a lifetime. That's enough, but
Yeah, I think that there's plenty of things that I could say really shaped my view of life and how, I came to be who I am.
mhm.
Um, but in the past 10 years, so yesterday, no, actually today. She's the 31st. Now I can't remember. Is it the 30th? Yeah, 30th. Yesterday was our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, nice. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And so I would say in these 10 years, that has to be like the thing that sticks out the most. And it's
Yeah,
funny because I did have a lot of career challenges as well, and changes and moves, but I don't know, I felt like all of that was manageable and expected because, in finance it's just it is what it is. Like everyone's, kind of just you're just prepped for it. I
yeah,
think what I wasn't prepped for is the motherhood challenges because I wasn't like a family planner.
right.
I never was that person in my 20s that was like, I can't wait to have kids. I can't wait to, this. I was just like, my career is the most important thing. And what
Yeah,
happened in my 30s and subsequently looking back at it, it's a whole different viewpoint of life and yourself because you really come out of all your comfort zones and
right.
you have no control. There's no control. You don't
Yeah,
know when you're going to get pregnant. Like I said, you don't know that you're going to lose a baby. You don't know how you're going to lose a baby. You don't know when you're going to, deliver, if it's going to be a C-section, if it's going to be natural. You could plan all you want. You can
yeah,
have the birth plans. I've known
mm,
people that have like 5 different birth plans.
yeah.
And then
As a
none of it's
labor room
followed,
nurse,
right? None of it's
as a labor
followed.
room nurse, I can tell you, whenever they would come in with the birth plan, it was like, yeah, it's not gonna go according to that, like guaranteed. And I can probably count on one hand the times that it did go the way it was, like with all the birth plans and all the years and labor, I can probably count on one hand, like the birth plan that, it happened the way that they scheduled it out or they wanted it, whatever. Because typically, there's no way,
Right.
no way.
So I have to say, like, it's 100%. That's the biggest, like, thing that takes me aback when I look back at, oh my God, I was because I'm a controller, right? I've controlled a lot of things in my life
Hmm.
always. I'm the planner, the organizer, I'm the controller. And this is a place you don't have that. You don't have the
Yeah,
ability to do that. So the challenge is there in
yeah.
every respect. That's it.
Did you feel when you were going through that, did you feel that 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 time was gonna last forever, or you knew it was temporary? Like you knew like this is just I feel like this now, but I know it's gonna be better later. Or did you just always think like doom and gloom when you were going through it?
I think after my son, my first, it felt the breastfeeding. We didn't talk about that, by the way.
We can do that. Let's
The
go.
breastfeeding, I think that
Intense.
was the biggest challenge. Yeah, I because remember I had him completely natural. I had him on my contractions at home watching. I was watching like a TV show that was on the like replay with all the funny things. I was cracking up through my
Oh my
contractions
God.
until my like best friend came over and then all of a sudden for a good 2 3 hours they started bad. She was massaging me, my little doula, and after that, I was like, oh my God, no one told me breastfeeding was going to be this insane. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. You
horrendous.
think you just slap them on and it's done. So not the case.
Oh my God. And hopefully men are going to freak out. And I'm like, I had bleeding nipples. I
Oh yeah.
had like
Yep.
all the things that mastitis, this, like
Oh,
lumps, like everything that could happen. Like you read like, oh, these are things that could happen. They all happened within like a month, within 4 weeks of trying to get enough milk for my baby. And at that point, I think when you're a first time mom, you're always like, I must do this. This is the right thing to do. And if I don't do this, that's not being a good mom. I have to give him my milk. I can't do, formula. And fast forward with her, once I wasn't making enough, I started supplementing within maybe 3 weeks,
yeah.
which would have been unheard back when I
Yeah.
was trying for my. I was pumping 8 times a day, Jessica. 8 times. You remember how hard it is to
I
like
do remember.
wash and do the
Horrible. Horrible.
8 times washing and steaming and going because I was like, I must create enough milk. So I blocked everything because with the bleeding nipples and with the this, then I wasn't making any milk. So it was really tough. So what was the question? Because right now I'm like, oh my God.
I'm just
I'm
going
like
back and I'm
sweating just
thinking
thinking about it
the
because it's so
bleeding
bad.
nipples, all that. I'm like, yeah, I remember all of that. And I remember I would put them on and be like, ah, like scream. And my husband would be like, what happened? I'm like, I'm like, I'm just trying to feed him. Like, just give me a minute. It was just like, oh my God, it was just awful. And I had 4 kids. So the first one, I went through all of that. I didn't know what I was doing. It was very foreign. Um, growing up, I don't think, if I recall correctly, my mom never breastfed me or anything like that. That wasn't a thing really back then, I don't think. It was just the bottle and the formula and whatever. And so I didn't really have her guidance in that sense of like, okay, look, do this, do that, whatever. It was just like, I don't know, try again. Like, I don't know, switch and see what happened. There was really like no real guidance. Um, and then you had, if I remember being in the hospital when I first started breastfeeding and have a stranger just come and like just grab my boob and like shove it in his mouth. And I'm just like,
Yes.
whoa, what's
Yes.
going on here? Like so aggressive. So, and
And
it's so,
you tighten up because you have to be relaxed. And
oh
also
my,
you tighten
who's
up
gonna
because you're just
relax
like,
with
what
that?
is happening?
It's just so crazy. Like everyone thinks, oh yes, breastfeeding, what a beautiful thing. Like it was horrifying. It was horrifying. And I dreaded every time I had to put them on because the pain was so bad. And then when they would finally get a good latch to unlatch it, like stick my finger in there, try to like let go, and I would always be like, trying to get off. I mean, it was such a production. It was such a production. And then the pumping, initially I had the manual pump. So sit there,
Oh my goodness, your
and then
hands.
oh my, I had the best forearms though. So it was crazy. And then finally we upgraded to and at that point we didn't really have that much money. We were trying to grow our business. I mean, we were very like no bells and whistles. It was just very
Right.
simple stuff. We upgraded to the electric pump, and that was a big game changer. But even then it was like you said, the washing and the sterilizing and and then
Thank God now it's a given, by the way. Like you have health insurance, they give you the
yes,
pump.
it's so
Like,
crazy to me.
yeah,
And the hospital can even rent it to you, like give it to you for like
right. There's
it's
so many more options now.
oh
It's
my
thank
God.
goodness.
I know, I
And
know.
also, I didn't know about under the tongue. So I forget what it's called, tongue tied or whatever it is. They
In
had to,
Spanish, I know it's el frenillo, but I
yeah.
don't know in English.
So I had that when I was a baby, but I
Frenium or
totally,
something? I don't know.
yes, maybe that's it. You're the nurse. I'm not.
I don't even
Like,
know. I just deliver the baby. The rest of the baby stuff goes to the newborn
somewhere
nursery.
else.
Yeah, we don't deal with any of that.
So once we cut that, well, obviously not us, but like the hospital, we took him back because we were like, it's broken. Like, it doesn't work. They were like, let's do this. And finally, a week later, he started latching on. But yeah, 8 times a day pumping to try and make sure because it's very different, right? When they latch on
Oh yeah,
versus the pump.
yeah,
So the milk was just like, no, this isn't a real kid. It's
yeah,
not coming out.
yeah. The signal doesn't get sent to the brain like,
Yeah.
hey, produce more milk. Not the way it does when they're latching on. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Man, what?
So yeah, so there's that other challenge I didn't want to talk about. I honestly don't
Oh,
think I want to talk about it because it really did like bring me back. Like I'm started sweating about it because it was really, really
yeah,
intense.
yeah.
Really.
And I remember so going through all of that and stressing and the pain and all this and pumping. And then one day, one
That
of
I
my
felt like was never
bags
gonna end. That was the question. Now I remember the question you asked. I
oh
felt
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
was never gonna end. The
that phase.
pumping. I felt
Yeah,
like I was gonna be pumping 8 times a day for the rest of my life. I was just
yeah.
like, and I wasn't sleeping. And it
The
was
rest of your
that.
life.
Yes, I really did. I was like, I'm gonna be pumping for the rest of my life. Like it felt like it was
He's
never
gonna
gonna
be
end.
30 and I'm still gonna be pumping.
So yeah, that's the only time I snapped out of it once he started latching on. I was like, okay, good. So it lasted about a week that I was like, oh my God. And I think if he hadn't latched on, like I definitely would have had postpartum with him for sure.
uh,
For sure. But I was just like, I was on such like, auto mode, just
yeah.
pump, pump, pump. Like, when you're just
You had a
survival
goal.
mode. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
survival
yeah,
mode. You're just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And once he latched on a week later, I was like, like,
yeah,
okay, I
yeah,
can now breathe.
yeah.
And I slept for the first time after a whole week. I hadn't slept. Craziness.
I mean, it's not like you're expected to sleep with a newborn, but
But like
still,
actually like more than an hour. Like
yeah,
it was
that's crazy.
bad.
That's crazy. I remember doing all that and feeling just ridiculous and then having one of the bags spill and I cried so much.
The liquid gold.
Oh, and my husband's like, What? Like, literally, you're crying over spilled milk, right?" He's like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "You don't know what this, like, what that means to me. You don't know what I had to go through to put that in that bag, you know? What it, like, the pain and the time and the everything that was involved in that. Like, there's so, like, it really is liquid gold. Forget the fact, the importance of, how well it is for the baby, how good it is for the baby and all that. Great. Yes, granted. but the mental, physical part of that whole like pouring into that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like crazy, crazy.
Well, and especially if you wanted to go out for like a drink that one night, you had to pump and
Pump
dump,
and dump.
right? The pump and dump was
Yeah.
tough.
I never did that. You know why? Because I was horrified that I wasn't going to pump enough. And then like maybe he'll get a little something. And I don't know. I was just like, I don't need it. I wasn't going anywhere anyway. I was just home, just like surviving. I couldn't even think about going out to drink. Are you kidding? I was
No,
just,
this is like, I
I
think it
was
was
in
like
yoga
seven
pants
months.
all day and like topless and yoga pants all day. It was crazy.
And the reason I say is because I remember I had a friend whose birthday, it was like his 40th birthday. He was an old boss of mine, and he was like, "You must come out." Like it was like a black tie, event. He made a real
Oof.
big deal about it. And I was like, "Okay, I'll come." And then I went out, I drank, and I was like, "Oh, I have to dump the milk that comes
I
out now."
know.
I was like, "Oh my
I
God."
know. It's horrible. You went through all of that and they have to get rid of it. Horrible. Horrible. I think there's so many women that can relate to everything that we're saying. I and the ones that haven't had kids yet that are watching this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I don't mean to scare
Prepare
you.
to not be prepared.
Just get ready, mentally prepare yourself. Yeah, to not feel prepared and that's okay. We learn, right? Through life lessons, we learn like, okay, that didn't work. That's going to work. Let me continue this way. I'll figure it out. It's baby steps. There's no manual. No one is there to tell you, okay, this is right, this is wrong. It's just kind of like throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. Like just go with it. Because what might work for me maybe doesn't work for you and vice versa.
Right.
Right? Maybe
But I
like
will
my
say, oh, sorry.
no,
What
go
I will
ahead.
say is, like, yes, it won't work for you all the time, but what I will say is community is really important, right?
Oh, in
So you have to
everything,
find,
in
yeah, you have to
everything
find
you do.
some moms that are literally in the same place you were, and then some that are a little bit ahead, right?
Yeah.
That are like a year out.
Yeah.
And that like, but you don't think about that right away because you're just like, oh my God, I just
You're in
went through the
survival
most,
mode.
yeah. But
Yeah.
once I started getting, and they reach out to you if you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
everybody has their baby announcements. You'll have people reaching out to you,
Yeah.
accept their help, accept people's support because
Yeah.
people do have a lot of wisdom. And yes, it may not be perfect for you, but you can try it. And if it
Of
doesn't work, then you
course.
try something
And you
else,
can
like you
tweak
said.
things like, okay, maybe not 100% like that, but I could do it like this and it
Yeah,
still have the same effect. It doesn't matter. We're all, it's so crazy. Like they always say, it takes a village to raise kids. I think it takes a village to get through life. I don't think you can get through life sanely by yourself. Like
definitely.
why would you want to struggle and go through all that strife when there's so many people that have gone through that already that you can just reach out to and say, "Can I pick your brain a second? Like I'm really struggling here." But there's such a, I don't know, what's the word? Like a
Taboo.
taboo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a taboo on asking for help because people feel like they're inferior. Are you kidding me? Like I when I was struggling with my oldest son, and I guess that's a whole topic for a whole other day, but I had to send him away to military boarding school when he was 14. And I didn't have postpartum depression, but I had depression then. Like to send him
Yeah.
away then, I really was in a very dark place. And I got to tell you though, every single person that gave me 1 minute, poor thing, would hear it from me. Like I was seeking help 24/7. Like anybody would like, "Oh, so how's your family?" Like, "Oh, let me just tell you, this is what's going on. And do you have any other way or do you know of any people who've gone through this?" Or like I was constantly like searching for other people because I didn't want to be suffering alone. It's miserable.
Right.
And I kept saying like I can't be the only person who's going through this. Like there's no way. And I remember when I dropped off my son at the school, he was as happy as can. It was more punishment for me than it was for him. He loves everything military. He's in the military now. So that, I mean, he found his place. But when I dropped him off, they walked him out and I was left behind and I was like trying to compose myself. I was shaking. And it was by myself. My husband was on a business trip. And this was a whole deal. Like I can tell you the whole
So you didn't have anyone
story.
to hold you. Yeah.
Nobody to tell me like it's gonna be okay. Like don't.
Right.
So I see him walk away, and this other mom was in there to visit her son because you can go and have lunch with him and stuff. But she's the local. This school was in Georgia. I live down here, so there
Right.
was no popping in for lunch. You know what I mean? So I knew the next time I would see him would be maybe a month or more away. And then so she popped in to have lunch with her son, and she said, she took one look at me, and she said, "Mom, is it day one for you?" And I just looked at her, I just nodded, and she's like, "I know you don't know me. Can I just give you a hug though?" And I
Oh.
literally like fell to the floor. I was literally on the floor, like shaking. And she just gave me a hug and she gave me a kiss. And she's like, Mama, it's okay. It's okay. Like, don't, I know it feels awful right now. And she's like, you're going to be able to see him and talk to him before you know. Like, she gave me this whole thing. And that's all I needed. I just needed to know that I wasn't alone, that she went through the same thing. And look at her. She's popping in for lunch, all good and bringing him his favorite snacks. And like, life is great. When I thought like my life was over, I failed, right? Like I totally failed this mom thing. I had to send my kid away because I didn't know what I was doing, And in the long of it all,
It's all in the language too, right? It's all in the language that you
yeah.
decided to use. That
Oh
it
my
could be
God,
completely changed
absolutely.
with the language that you choose for it.
100%. 100. If I would have gone about it and been like, I'm doing this for you. This is the best thing for you. You're going to learn so much. You're going to be so strong. You're going to be a better man. That I would have, I think, overcome it quicker and better
Right.
as opposed to I'm a failure. I couldn't be a good mom. What did I do wrong? Why are we here? How did I fail him? How like and that's what was playing over and over and over until like 3 months after. And I had already gone to visit him and he had graduated his boot camp session and he did amazing. And for the first time ever, I got calls from his teachers like praising him. I usually got other
Oh.
calls when we were here. They weren't good ones. And the teachers were praising him like what an amazing young man he was and amazing things. So I remember him calling me on the weekend one day and he said, I don't know if I ever told you. He's like, first of all, and he was 15 at this time. He said, which I thought was very mature for a 15-year-old. He said, I never thanked you for sending me away. He's like, I know that's probably one of the hardest things you've had to do in your life. He said, but that I think saved my life. Like, like 15 years old, for him to be able to come to me and say that, I thought was super mature. And that totally like erect me, like in a good way, in a good way, right?
The good crying, yes.
And then I remember on his 18th birthday, on his card, I wrote something like, you know how many times like I thought I failed you? And here I am getting emotional. And he wrote back, he's like, you never failed me. On the contrary, Ugh. But I guess as a mom, like you are in this battle, like forever, right? Because
Yes.
am I doing things right? What am I doing wrong? Like, but you need that community to kind of hold you and say, you got this. Like, this is normal, or don't worry, we got you. You're not by yourself, or this is
Yeah.
gonna work out. So yeah,
And there isn't one formula for
no,
anything. That's the
no,
main thing that we have to always remember. Like
yeah,
whatever, something will look like one way for one person and it'll work for that person. It'll look completely different for you.
yeah,
And so community is great for support, but also not to compare because you can't.
right,
You really
right.
can't.
It is definitely not for comparison. Definitely not. Everybody's journey is so different.
Yes.
Everybody's journey is so different.
Yes. And I love that he said that, by the way. That's amazing. I can't wait. That's like that's everybody mom's dream, right? Like
Right? I
that's what you
know.
want to hear. And you heard it so soon. Usually you have to wait
Yeah.
till like 20s or something.
So they have their own kids and then they realize, oh wow, this is tough. My parents are pretty badass. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a relief. Especially when I had like my whole family telling me, you're gonna ruin his life, you're taking him away from his brothers and sisters, you're gonna kill the relationship between them and between you, and he's gonna hate you. And
That doesn't help. That definitely doesn't help the voices in your
girl,
head.
well, it wasn't
My
even in my
gosh.
head. It was what was being said to me.
Yeah, no, that they're putting them, I say,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
putting them in your head and now they stay there, right? Those
Well,
those voices come
especially
from your
being
family. It's really hard to get them out.
yeah, and those hurt the most. The
Yeah.
family ones, just they're
Yeah.
daggers. But you being Latina, know that we keep our kids with us till they're like 50.
And our parents
Yeah,
until
till
they're
they're like till they're like
gone.
50, right? So the fact that I'm cutting the umbilical cord and sending off my child to another state, to a people that I don't even know, it's like, how dare you? What are you doing? We don't do that,
It's funny
right?
you say that because when my son, who's 10 and he has ADHD,
Yeah.
he's on the spectrum and he definitely acts up. When he gets really bad, my husband will say to me, not in front of him, but like to me, he's like, the only thing that's gonna really fix him is, sending him to boarding school. And I look at him and I just laugh. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Like
I
that's not
said
happening.
that
But
for years. I said
right?
that for years. I said over my
Exactly.
dead body,
Right.
like over
But
my
you
dead
don't
body.
know. You don't
Yeah.
know when you get to that point, like that may be the only option for that circumstance for that
Yeah.
person, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so trust me, I'm also, yeah, I understand. You're just like, what? We'll figure this out. My grandfather had Alzheimer's. He couldn't function. We had him at home. Like, no, we're not putting in a facility. Like, we couldn't handle it at all.
Yeah.
He would get lost all the time. He would escape.
Oh
That
my
wasn't the
God.
right, but you know, you're just stuck. You're like, no, no, no. This is the way we do it. This is the formula we've always done it at.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so much better to understand, like, it's everything has like their own, like, it has to play out the way it needs to play out, and decisions need to be made at the time,
Yeah.
not, you know, in a foreshadowing of like, this is what's going to be. No, you have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Everything's changing
And like you
constantly.
said, no comparing because someone with Alzheimer's at home maybe didn't escape. So maybe it's not the same situation as you. So they could have it in my home. But I mean, like I said, everyone's journey is different and you
Right.
just got to do what works for you. But man, it's tough. It's tough.
This has been so great. Thank you,
I
Jessica.
know. I am so happy you did it. I know you were kind of nervous about it.
I was. You asked about it, and I was like, oh, maybe not yet, not yet.
Like we're just having a
So,
conversation. That's it. So I am so grateful that you joined me today. Thank you, Rosa. And I am looking forward to our possible tango session.
yes, I am too.
Good,
We have
good.
to get good at walking, and then you can get me into your
I can do. I don't
20
know about
something mile. What is
strutting.
it? 21-mile
21
walk.
in November, by the way. You got time.
I got time. All right, sounds good.
All right, Rosa. Well, thank you. Have a great day. I appreciate you.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.